So you're thinking about moving to Lenexa, Kansas. Well, in this video, we're going to be talking about some pros and cons and things you need to know about living in Lenexa, Kansas. If you stick around to the end, we're going to tell you the #1 thing that you need to know. Hey, if this is your first time tuning into the channel, you want to know everything there is to know about living in Kansas City, then click subscribe, hit that little bell for notifications so you can be the first to know of the current market here in the KC metro area and places like Lenexa, Kansas. My name is Zach Morton, business partner Max Jones. The Mojo Real Estate team and I have been helping people move to Kansas City for over 20 years. We absolutely love it, but you don't have to take our words for it. See what our clients have to say with over 600 5-star Google reviews from people just like you. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, just pick up the phone, you can just call, shoot a text, drop us an email, even schedule a Zoom call so we can have that conversation with you and help you with a seamless transition into your new market. All that contact information is in the description below. So here we are, Lenexa, pros and cons.
All right.
What should we start with, the pros or the cons?
I like to start with the good.
Okay, we'll start with the good.
I'm a positive kind of guy.
I love it. So the first thing we want to talk about is the city center. This is a new space that they put in. It is, not only is it the city center, but it's actually located right in the center of Lenexa, and it's a brand new place. It's been designed. They're spending millions of dollars on this, and it's just a great location. It's super walkable. There's a residential property close by. There's rentals close by, or single family, I guess I should say. There's rentals, there's condos, everything's walkable. There's shops underneath the rentals. The city market, which is a great place. It's an indoor kind of a micro restaurant area where you can go in. There's something for everybody. So you bring the whole family. Wife wants pizza, you want sushi, and the kids want cheeseburgers, so everybody can be happy under that roof. And then the farmers market is off the hook there too. It happens twice a week, and they even do it in the wintertime. So something pretty cool. Not a lot of places go all out to where they have farmers market, farmer fresh stuff in the winter as well. So
yeah, that's cool. That's one of the things that I like best about different communities around Kansas City is when they still have that city center where you have the city square. Most of them are old, historic areas, right. But Lenexa's taken it a whole over the top by revitalizing that city center, and is one of the best places in Kansas City for that type of feel, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, nice, new, walkable. There's a big library. They put millions of dollars into that, and just and they're continuing to add to it. If you check out our vlog, we're actually standing in that square, kind of walking down the street, so you can get a really good vibe for how that looks. But as you'll see in that video, there's still lots of green space. There's still city blocks that are left to develop, and it's just going to keep getting better and better. So excited to see what happens there and how that grows.
All right, yeah, that's an awesome pro.
Yep.
The cost of living is also a really good pro for Lenexa. The median home price is $430,000, and what is the?
Yeah, and so it's coming in right at 105% of the national average. When you mix everything together, the cost of living for Lenexa. And that's pretty sweet, because as we go through this pro list and you see all the great things that Lenexa has to offer, and it's only 5% above the national average for cost of living, I don't know. I think it might be a pretty sweet spot for Kansas City. Until I crunched all those numbers and looked at the data, I always knew it was a great place, but I never really looked at it from that perspective or through that lens. And it has a lot to offer at a great price point.
Yeah, tough to beat that. It's only 5% above average.
Now, we'll say that the housing threw it off a little bit. The housing was 120% above the national average, but the cost of living, when you take in groceries, transportation, all those other things that kind of go into that total cost of living, brings it down to a really sweet spot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. Another thing I love about Lenexa is it's chock full of things to do and tons of entertainment. So we can go on and on about the things to do, but we got a little bit of a list going.
We got a little bit of a list, but let's just start with the restaurants. Just right out of the gate, there is every kind of food you can imagine. Cantonese, Chinese, Japanese, that's Thai. We've got barbecue, obviously. One of my favorite barbecue shacks is in Lenexa, Jack Stacks. We've got pizza. I mean, you name it, they've got it. And then you've got the market too, which is that place where everything's under one roof, which is a super cool spot. Another thing to do along with those things to do is there's a trap shooting spot. It's called Powder Creek, where you can go out with the shotguns, and there's different stations. You swipe your card and, you know, shoot the clay pigeons so you don't have to endanger any animals. So what else do we like to do? Golf.
Yeah, I know there's a really cool sand volleyball setup where they have sand volleyball tournaments, and it's not just 1 or 2 courts. I mean, it's like 20 courts for sand volleyball. The sports complexes out there are really...
it's great that you bring that up because, the baseball, we both have kids in baseball, lots of tournaments out there, and it's a great spot. They've really got it nailed. People come from all over the country, or at least all over the Midwest. There'll be kids from Iowa and Arkansas that are coming to that spot for baseball tournaments. And even on the east side, it's a little more industrial when you're closer to I-35 on the east side. There'll be some warehouse space and stuff like that, and there's some indoor volleyball courts. And I know my daughter, she was into volleyball, so we'd be down there for the indoor courts in the wintertime and early spring.
Heck yeah.
So they got it covered.
Yeah, I love it out there at 3 and 2 when we have a tournament and you know, there's a gap between games. You might have 2 hours between your first game and your second one. A lot of times when you're doing that, it's like, oh man, where are we gonna go? What are we gonna do? That's never a problem when you're in Lenexa.
Good point.
Always stuff to do out there.
Always close to something, yeah. Water parks, they just put a new aquatic center too that they're not completed with that yet, but they will be, I think, by next year. So in the next 12 months, and it's got, you know, the 2 or 3 story water slide and all the little splashy stuff for the kids. So it just keeps getting better over there. And that kind of leads us into the parks. So the parks are great. There's over 30 parks in Lenexa across the board, but one of the, there's several that are big and sweet, but just to touch on the biggest, baddest one is we've got Shawnee Mission Park, and that's 1,600 acres.
Wow.
It's right on the north side of Lenexa, and it actually shares that with Shawnee, so it's kind of that border parks that you share with the city to the north. But a great big park, 120 acre lake right in the middle of that, and all kinds of things to do around that. They've got golf courses close by. There's mountain bike trails there. Of course, you can rent boats. You can bring your boat. You can fish, get out there on the paddle board, swim, all that good stuff. There's a I think it's 44 acre dog park that you can go up to. There's even a little beach down there for the dogs.
Doggy beach.
Doggy beach. So you can, what I like to do is chuck it out and just whip it out in the lake and make my dog swim, and really wears them out. And on those hot days, you know, cool with the dog out there having a blast. And you're getting your exercises, the dog's getting their exercises. And to tell you the truth, you know, some of those condensed dog parks can be full of poop, and I just feel a little bit better. 44 acres.
Yeah, that's spreading out there.
Kind of hard to step in a pile.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So lots of good things. They even have a boat washing station. Zebra mussels are an invasive species that everybody's trying to keep out of the lake, so you can wash your boat before you get in, wash it out, and all the water that drains away from your boat stays out of the lake system. So really cool spot over there.
Yeah, there's nothing better than parks to really, you know, make a great community. It brings people together, and, you know, people get exercise, get out in nature.
Yeah.
Whenever you're part of Kansas City's community has great parks, that's always a pro.
Yeah, and just something else we'll touch on too. You can always check out our vlog where we do touch on this a little more, but a lot of the neighborhoods kind of near Shawnee Mission Park and to the south will have trails interconnecting the neighborhoods that ultimately lead to like a little river trail that'll take you all the way up to that park and other parks. So as kind of the central spot, I would say they kind of started thinking about parks a little more. Lenexa developed from the east side and then went west as time went on. It kind of grew to the west and south. So those spots that are close to the parks and a little further west have really great trail systems. So if that's something important to you, you want to be able to hop on your bike or walk to a restaurant, walk to the park. Lots of options in Lenexa to pull that off.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that kind of makes me think of some cons about Lenexa a little bit.
All right, let's hear it.
So we probably ought to talk about the cons.
Yeah.
When I think about Lenexa, it does seem like it's a kind of a dense, more dense area, very highly populated for the size.
Yeah.
And especially on the east side, it's kind of commercially.
Yeah.
But, you know, with every con, there's a pro. A lot of the commercial area makes it for a lot of employment opportunities in Lenexa.
Right.
So while you got to take the good with the bad, you do kind of get that feel right along I-35 that it's kind of dense commercial. Yeah.
Yep. In fact, that's Garmin. You might be wearing a Garmin watch today. That's where Garmin got its start, was in Lenexa. So there's some tech companies, there's some engineering companies, and a lot of big companies that have chosen to call Lenexa their home. Also with that is the distance to the airport.
Yeah.
Not only is it a little bit of industry, but anywhere really south of the river, you're going to have a little bit of a jaunt to the airport. There's not a whole lot of cons that we can say about Lenexa, but this would be one. It's probably 30 to 45 minutes to get up there, just depending on traffic and time of day. If you're traveling a lot for work, that may be an issue. If you're just going on vacation every few months, then it might not be a big deal at all. But that's just something we want to point out.
Yeah, in Kansas City, there's a lot of revitalization of the international airport. That airport, though, is on kind of the northwest corner of the city. So Lenexa is kind of south central or southwest. So there are worse places to be in proximity to the airport, but it is something to be aware of, that it's, if your thing is traveling for work, then Lenexa could be, not the top of your list. But yep.
But even if you're on the Kansas side, there's worse places in Kansas that are further from the airport. So just something to keep in mind. We also have traffic on our con list. So the south side of the river is more densely populated, and that's just going to be more traffic getting in and out of the city. And one of the main highways that goes from Lenexa into the city is I-35, which kind of runs northeast into the city from Lenexa. And that is going to be, there is a lot of really nice suburbs and cities around Lenexa that are densely populated as well. In fact, one of the biggest suburbs of Kansas, the biggest suburb of Kansas City borders Lenexa. So there is going to be a lot of traffic once you get on that highway during rush hours, going in and coming out.
Yeah, it's not really a problem unless it's rush hour. I-35 gets pretty clogged up, around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon or 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and it's still not a huge distance. You're still only talking like 15, 16 miles into downtown, but with traffic that can slow down and take a little longer.
Yeah.
Something to, every pro has a con. There is 435 that also dissects Lenexa more centrally, a little bit further to the west. And that is that highway system we talk about a lot in these videos that circumvents the whole city, so you can kind of go around everything if you don't need to go into downtown. That would be the highway of choice if I was going to the airport out of Lenexa, because that's going to take you around the city and straight up the west side. So that's kind of nice to counterbalance that con a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. 435 was built back in I think it was the 60s and 70s, and it was very forward thinking because the city hadn't really grown. So a lot of people are like, what in the heck are you doing building this highway clear out around,
in the country.
and the country away from everything? But it was very visionary, and with the mindset that the city's going to grow, and it has. I mean, it's kind of what comes first, the chicken or the egg? That you see that in New York City with the subway systems. It's very similar, where they'll put a new line to an area that isn't all that populated, and then that population booms because of that access to that transportation. So 435 is a really great highway for the Kansas City area.
Yeah. All right, what do we have next on our cons? The weather, and this just goes for Kansas City in general, but we get all 4 seasons of the year, and depending on where you're coming from, California or the East Coast or maybe Texas or Chicago, you may have these weather patterns and you may not, but we have hot summers and cold winters, but our falls and springs are beautiful, and nothing really lasts too long around here. So as soon as you're tired of one weather pattern, we're into the next one. And to counter that as the con, I like to say that's what makes it nice.
You mean Lenexa doesn't have its own weather system?
Well, maybe. Some days.
Yeah, some days. I always wonder how when they say 30% chance of rain, maybe that means it's raining in Lenexa. If you happen to be in Lenexa, then...
Well, there was that big storm that just hit down south 2 or 3 weeks ago. that went through Lenexa.
I
had
did, yeah.
70
Prairie
mile,
Village.
Yeah. 70-mile-an-hour straight line winds were recorded in a couple spots. It took a lot of trees down. In fact, when I was down there shooting the vlog, I was just there after it. You can see just the carnage.
Yeah, lots of trees down.
Yeah, lots of trees down. But they did clean it up pretty quick, and it's all back to normal and ready for you to go check out houses down there. So it's ready to go. What else do we have on the cons?
I think that there's not a lot of cons about Lenexa. You know, I can't really think of much else, but we could tell them about the number one thing about Lenexa that's pretty awesome.
There's one thing I want to touch on before we do that.
All right.
I forgot to talk about it. That's the school district. It's not really a con, but it's just something that you need to know is Lenexa does not have its own school district, which is kind of unique to a city, but it does borrow school districts from Olathe, DeSoto, and Shawnee, which are all A+ rated schools. So you really can't go wrong. But if you do want to do a little more research and figure out which school might be a best fit for you, depending on what your kids are into, those would be 3 things to research and then just know before you got into Lenexa.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard to go wrong with those schools.
Oh yeah.
But,
so I don't want to spend too much time on it. They're all great.
but yeah, good point.
Yep. All right, let's do the number one thing.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so every June, the city of Lenexa has a big barbecue battle where you can enter into a competition. It's actually the Kansas state competition. So you can become a state champ for barbecue and you can enter into the Kansas barbecue battle.
It is Kansas City, folks, so what would you expect? But yeah, for the whole state, right there in Lenexa, it's a great place to hang out while they're having this competition. You can go down there and taste all these different barbecues.
Yeah.
There's usually some beers going on and some micro brews, and get into that too. And you just can't go wrong with beers and barbecue.
Yeah, I think there's a ticket. You can buy a ticket to get into the contest, and you can walk around and meet all the contestants and sample their barbecue. People just have a hell of a good time down there. So definitely, it's on my radar for every June.
Yep. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Our goal right here is just to give you guys some information that kind of help you narrow down your choice, but really we need to have that two-way conversation, see what your true goals are so we can help pinpoint that. So thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, click all that stuff. We will see you on the next video. Remember, you got 2 friends in the business.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.